everyone, I hope your sweet tooth's aching, because today I'm going to give you the secrets to my best brownie recipe. First, a shout out to my niece Sierra, who requested I make something sweet and requested brownies, so that's what we're going to do today. The first secret to the brownies is this pan. This is my favorite brownie recipe, in a big part due to the size of the pan. So many brownie recipes call for an 8x8, and that's just simply not enough, especially when you're feeding a large crowd, bringing a pan of brownies to a party, or bringing brownies to work, like I always used to do. But second to the pan is what we're going to do with the pan before we bake the brownies, and that is we're going to create a parchment sling. And so how we're going to do that is really easy. I have 2 pieces of parchment, and I'm going to fold them so that they fit nicely in the pan. And fit it right in there, and this will go right up the sides. And then I have a second sheet, and then that's going to go in the opposite way. That is going to allow 2 things. First of all, our brownies won't get stuck. But also, when the brownies are ready to be taken out of the pan and cut, they'll be easy to, because we'll just simply pull out on our parchment slip. And I do like a little extra protection, so I usually spray this with some nonstick spray. So we got our pan ready, and the next step will be to get our wet or dry ingredients together. All right, we got our dry ingredients, and the dry ingredients are pretty simple, but I do have a couple of tricks up my sleeve with these too. First of all, I've tested this recipe with gluten-free flours, and it works really great. I do believe it's because, number one, there's not a lot of flour in here, so the brownie itself isn't needing the flour as much for the structure. The eggs and butter and chocolate do a lot of the work here. And I do think that anything chocolate covers up maybe some of the texture and taste issues of some gluten-free flours. I like to use Bob's Red Mill when I'm baking for my gluten-free friends, but you should use whatever you like. The other secret that I have is I put just a little bit of cinnamon. There's 1 teaspoon of cinnamon in this dry mix, and that's not going to make it taste very cinnamony, but it's going to play off the flavors of the chocolate and give the brownies a little extra warm taste that most people aren't going to be able to pick out, but it's going to give the brownies a little bit of an extra flavor boost. So that's it. We're just going to set these aside, and we're going to go to the wet ingredients. So our wet ingredients start off with chocolate, and that is the next secret. It's important to use a really good quality, very dark chocolate. I like these Lindt bars, and I like the chocolate 70% cocoa. I would go up to 85%. The 70% means there's a little bit of extra sugar in here, giving it a little bit of extra sweetness. The darker you get, the less sugar in it. But this is the favorite bar that I use every single time I make these brownies. These are a little pricey, but I do have some tips. There is a Lindt outlet store near me, and there might be near you, so you can check there. And I often find these bars in our local discount store. So I go there pretty often to try to look for these. At regular price, the bars run about $3.50, and you need about 2 of them. So the brownies are slightly pricey to make, but this chocolate makes all the difference. So you should really try to go ahead and find the best quality chocolate that you can. And it is kind of the key to a brownie, is the chocolate. We have our chocolate with butter, and we're going to melt these together to start. You can do this on the stove at a very, very low temperature, but you really want to make sure that you don't burn the chocolate. So take your time with it. I'm going to put this into the microwave, and I'm going to microwave this for 30-second increments until it's melting. And when it's done, there'll be a few tiny chunks of chocolate left, and I'm going to stir them and they will melt all together. So I'm going to go do that, and we'll be back for the rest of our wet ingredients. All right, we're back. Our chocolate is nice and melty with the butter, and there are no little pieces left as the chocolate sat here for a little while cooling down. All the little tiny leftover pieces of chocolate that were left after I finished taking it out of the microwave melted in with the butter. We let this cool for just a couple of minutes because we're going to put eggs in a minute, and we don't want that to cook the eggs. But before we get to that, we're going to get to my next secret ingredient. And my next secret ingredient is espresso powder, just a tablespoon. Now, I love to use this ingredient when I'm making anything chocolatey because coffee and chocolate go so well together. I have this espresso powder, which lasts me forever. I'm actually almost out, so I'll need to get some more. Also, another thing that might work here are those little packets that you get at Starbucks, the Starbucks Via Packs. Those are really great for baking as well, and I keep some of those on hand as well in case I run out of my espresso powder. We're treating this as a wet ingredient because it's going to dissolve now in this melted butter and chocolate. So we're just going to dissolve that together. Okay, so that's all mixed in. You can't see any more little bits of espresso powder hanging out. And my next secret ingredient is brown sugar. I tested this recipe a lot when I first started making this brownie recipe, and I decided that I just really like the flavor that all brown sugar gives. Brown sugar has a little bit of extra moistness from the molasses and a little bit of an extra rich flavor, which I think pairs so well with the chocolate and the espresso powder and the cinnamon that I've just gone to using all brown sugar, and I think it makes a big difference. So we're just going to stir that in. I love brownies because they're really so easy to make. Making homemade from scratch brownies is not much harder than making them from a box. And making them yourself allows you to choose the ingredients that you want to use and use the really good chocolate and choose what mix-ins you want to go in. So I just always make them from scratch. I just think they taste better. All right, our sugar is pretty well mixed in. There's a few lumps left, but we'll get them when we go to our next step, which is adding our eggs, or 4 eggs. And I'm going to use a whisk for this just to make sure the eggs get all mixed well. And we're going to get those last bits of brown sugar broken up. This is looking so delicious and chocolatey. It smells amazing. I cannot wait for brownies. All right, it's all mixed well together. All the eggs and brown sugar are mixed in with the chocolate and the butter. One last thing, this isn't really a secret, I just really like a good vanilla. I got mine from King Arthur Flour, and it's this extra vanilla plus, which has a little bit of an extra vanilla flavor. And I'm just going to eyeball about a teaspoon. I never really measure my vanilla. I just kind of know how much I like. Give that one last stir. We're going to now fold in our dry ingredients. See how easy this is? We're just going to be pretty gentle. We don't want to overmix the flour and make it more tough from mixing that gluten more. We're just folding it in, and we're just going to wait until the flour just gets mixed in. Okay, so the flour is just mixed in. There's a few tiny streaks of flour, but that's fine. because we'll probably get those mixed in with the last step, which is mix-ins. So you can mix anything into these brownies that you want. I really love butterscotch, toffee bits, extra chocolate chips, but Sierra specifically requested white chocolate chips. So we're gonna toss those in today. You can do up to 2 cups. I have a little less than a cup of these white chocolate chips. And then for me, this is controversial, I know. It is not a brownie unless there are nuts. And specifically, I love a pecan. And this is not my final secret, but one of the last secrets is really toast your nuts. To toast these nuts, I put them in the oven at 350 for 7 minutes. And you really start smelling pecans and nuts in the air when they're done. And it just makes all the difference to bring out those extra flavors of the nuts and also gives it an extra awesome crunch. So we got a little bit more than a cup of pecans in here. And we're just going to do one final fold. All right, that looks good. Now we just need our prepared 9 by 13 pan, which is ready to go. We're gonna, All right. So we're gonna just spread this as evenly as possible. And I like to give it a couple of taps on the counter just to make sure that everything's even. That's for later. All right, so we're ready to go in the oven. These are gonna go in the oven at 325 in the middle rack for about 30 to 35 minutes. You're really going to try to do that cake test where you're going to stick in a paring knife or toothpick and only see a few little moist crumbs. With brownies, you do not want to overbake. So I'm going to check mine at probably about 25 minutes just to get a sense of how they're doing. And then I'll check it every few minutes from there. So I'll see you back in about a half hour. So it's been 33 minutes and our brownies are done. And I can tell they're done because they're crinkling just a little bit on the edges. And when I put a paring knife in them, they came back clean except for a couple of small crumbs. So the last secret is probably the hardest part. These have to fully cool before cutting into them and before taking them out of the pan. I know it's really tough. I always take the entire night. I cook them a night before I want them, and I let them cool overnight, and then I take them out. But probably 4 to 6 hours is sufficient. Again, you just want to make it sure that the brownies are totally cool. And since I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to cut in to sweet brownie cutting footage right now. So there you have it, the secrets to what I think are the best brownie recipes in the world. Thanks, Sierra, for the idea, and a shout out to your brothers, Sage and Sawyer. If you have any ideas for what I should cook next in one of my videos, why don't you let me know in the comments. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and hit that bell to know when I launch my next video. Thanks for watching. Now go have some fun in the kitchen.